All right, we're getting started. Hit that like, share the show, everybody. All right. We're getting very close. I can feel it. We're very, very close. Let's see. Waiting on a guest. I'm just waiting on a friend. Oh, good. He's coming in. Okay. Making sure he has the right link. Here we go. Just making sure. All right, he's going. He'll be here in just a minute. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's House Parks Mega Worldwide. Like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc., etc. I see him in the background. I see our dear friend Boston Brian hanging around back there, looking all fine and stuff, doing what he's got to do, like a man, just being a crazy man. Hold on one second. I've got to properly put him in his place. You know what I'm saying? Which takes a split second. And I'm totally capable of doing it. Except I don't know where the window thing is. Where'd it go? I lost my little window. Look at that. And I turned the audio up on the alerts, which is really fun. Okay, so let's see. Overlays. There it is. Where are you? And then it says it's up. That's just wrong. Okay. I'm missing one of my... Oh, there it is. Sorry. It was hidden behind another window. That happens. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm going to bring him in just 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, the lovely and talented Boston Brian. If I do say so, my damn self. Here he is. And scene. Welcome to the show, my friend.
How are you, sir? How's everything?
Everything. I can't speak for everything right now because there's a bunch of stuff that, quite frankly... It sucks butthole. But
yeah.
That said, I am completely comfortable with the idea of taking that stuff head on. So I am as good as can be expected, possibly better. So.
Well, if you had no sense of humor and could only rely on sarcasm as you talk about so often, like Sean Hannity does, then you'd be able to say, like he did in his interview with Trump. Not much going on in the news, so not much for us to talk about.
Mr. President, you're just extrajudicially killing American citizens and invading other countries and threatening allies and all kinds of stuff. And it doesn't sound at all like you're an old, farty, brain-dead old man who's wandering to the window to look at the giant hole in the yard where the pool is going to be put in next year that you'll never get a chance to swim in because you're cadaver.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. What a view. I guess it reminded me so much of by Grabthaw's hammer. What a savings.
You can tell, too, by the reactions of the people in the room that they're just like, what the hell is going on? You know,
what are we doing here? Right.
Yeah.
So I got to say, I don't, in all of this, it's completely foreseeable. All of this, like it's that anybody is surprised at any of this garbage is almost like they are living in the last Trump term, or they're stuck in this kind of fantasy world, right? Where that never happened. Like him fucking up COVID never happened. So you didn't get a real good look at what a shitty executive he is in any kind of real situation.
Right, because we had no examples prior. We had no list of companies that he definitely bankrupted himself, or a list of possible crimes, and definitely sexual allegations that we could have put up there before he even got into public office, and definitely the office of the presidency. But I mean that's a different story, I think.
Yeah, and then you look at people who are. I got to say, you and I both know, and I'm sure you see this as much as I do, is that there is a huge chunk of MAGA that lives off of outrage. That they just milk outrage. This kind of liberal tears idea has metastasized into basically their raison d'etre in life, and so they don't care even if it's something they would be outraged about in the past. Like not releasing the Epstein files or something like that. There are a bunch of them, like Benny Johnson, specifically in the media sphere of MAGA, that or Dan Bongholio, who we have to talk about his triumphant return to the to get a chocolate swirly from all of the MAGA fans as soon as he opened his stupid mouth. But that if we're outraged that he would invade Venezuela, good. But if other maggots are outraged, they're black pillars and they need to be taken down, right? And even though they're taking Trump at his word, which is, again, idiotic.
But we've seen people that anybody that follows him, you quite literally, one of the specific things that you need to be ready to do is twist yourself in a pretzel in order to contort yourself into defending what he does compared to what you've said prior in your beliefs or policy beliefs or anything like that.
That's right.
I mean, we've seen these people just continuously turn themselves inside out, jump up and down. I mean, do anything they possibly can to justify following this guy, even though it makes absolutely no sense, even though they've probably said completely opposite things and antithetical things in their fucking past. It doesn't matter, because as long as they can continue to feel that power and feel like, okay, it doesn't matter who tells them anything, we rule this agency, we rule that agency, we got the Supreme Court, we got the Senate, we got the House, like who's going to tell me otherwise, right? You know what I mean? So it's like, as long as they can continue to make everybody believe that he's popular and people are still behind him, then they'll defend anything. I mean, look at what's happening in the country today. I mean, Tom Homan just went on with Kristen Welker and Meet the Press, and in a time span of about a minute and a half said, okay, anybody that's defending the monster that clearly, in my opinion, shot Renee Nicole fucking Good in cold blood in broad daylight, you have to put yourself in the officer's shoes, and you have to be able to think like he's thinking in that moment, and you have to come to the determination that he was fearing for his life. But if you're against what you believe was cold-blooded murder in broad daylight in a busy intersection with protesters around for a situation that absolutely did not call for deadly force, then it's impossible for you to accurately put yourself in that guy's place. You can't quite comprehend what he's thinking. But again, if you're trying to defend it, you have to be able to put yourself in his shoes and know what he's thinking. So he's trying to have his cake and eat it too. And the blatant hypocrisy in that one statement in about a minute and a half time frame on Meet the Press is quite clear of how how far they're willing to go to justify these acts.
Well, they're also just throwing anything against the, it's almost like they're delivering talking points to whoever wants to take them. It's a buffet because they have no real reasoning. They have no genuine argument. So everything they're selling is going to be, what do you need to hear to leave me the fuck alone? That's really what they're doing. And that's what Trump is doing. That's why he always says, we'll see. He ends almost everything with, well, we'll see, we'll see, or you're going to see, or you will see. And in reality, there's no there. He knows it. But he's like, somebody else will figure something out and bail me out of this because that's their goddamn job. I mean, the irony this week, and I'm sure you see this. I mean, maybe you've watched some of the Dave Smith, Candace Owens versus the world kind of stuff that's been going on in MAGA land, that there is a real rift going on right now. There really is. Like I previously, when I would say like maggots will break with Trump over the Epstein files and that kind of stuff, I would get pushback because they're like, no, they'll hang in there. They'll hang in there. Okay. Ever since July of last year, you've seen this kind of cascade of his numbers, and almost all of those people are the maggots who are all in on Epstein, the QAnon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mike Flynn crowd that have all gone, wait a second, why are you hiding any of this stuff? And, besides the fact that, Jesus Christ, the guy he was his wingman. Are you nuts? Like, there's no, I don't understand how you don't know this. Like, that's why I think you have to have Trump derangement syndrome to actually vote for the guy. You'd have to be deranged to think. Right. But they're definitely running for the hills.
Oh, God, sorry.
Yeah, I just want to finish this one thought. So they are running for the hills on that. But at that time, I don't think you or I had any inclination that Charlie Kirk was going to get murdered and that his death would create a division that kind of built on it. It was like the cuts were already there from Epstein, but it was a septic wound now that is not going to heal. It just isn't.
You're 100% right. And we've been saying on Blunt Politics, I bring it back to three basic things that you could distinctly draw down the MAGA kind of civil war, whatever you want to call it, back to. Two of them you just named, the Charlie Kirk murder and kind of the conspiracy theories that were surrounding that, the Epstein files, and, there's the crowd that's kind of justifying and defending the not release, and then there's the crowd that, really is adamant about, them being lied to about the release or their intentions to release them and not seeing it since. And then there's also the anti and pro-Israel faction, which again ties back into a lot of those aspects. And I think there's a fourth one starting to creep in, which I've been saying is affordability. I think a lot of people now are really starting to recognize that life has gotten pretty much out of control, and that everything that Donald Trump promised them as far as, lowering prices on this, that, and the third was total and complete horse shit. So I think that's kind of creeping in as a fourth aspect. But on the podcast, I usually bring it back to, we watch different videos from right wingers just to kind of get the temperature in the room and what they're talking about. And, as far as I've been saying, they're leaving us the door open, because I believe in my heart that when right wingers are at their most prominent, when they're at their strongest, these political podcasters and commentators, is when they're in lockstep, all with the same talking points, all using the same rhetoric, and all lying about Democrats or Democratic policies. If they're not all doing that, and they're not all getting their talking points straight from the top, straight from the billionaires that fund them, and they're fighting each other, that's leaving a huge door open for Democratic, liberal, lefty politicians and political commentators to get our ideas, to get our policies, to get to
which is what Bongholio is panicking about.
Right.
That's exactly what he's on this black pillar tour. Yeah, yelling at all the MAGA faithful for actually expecting him to do his goddamn job and actually, live up to what, all of his rhetoric that he'd been basically, the piles of fucking money that dipshit made selling that, we need to, him and Kash Patel, but more Bongholio, selling this idea that he was going to, root out the deep state, show the Epstein files, shut down the cabal of human trafficking and children, that are being trafficked and all this stuff while he's in office. And then just within days of getting in there, just the about face. And then since then, attacking maggots, very similar to right after that memo came out and Trump didn't get the reaction he was hoping for from that, the July 21st memo or whatever, where he was like, I don't even need your help anymore. I don't want your support. That's the one that Charlie Kirk had a problem with, right? So you've got that division started up. And I think the biggest one, you're absolutely right about the affordability part, because I honestly think that it was really just him calling it a hoax that did it more than anything else. He really could, because of maggots, he could have dodged this for a while, blame Biden's economy, bitched about it, but I inherited a mess. His folks line up to suck up that garbage like baby fucking birds getting their breakfast barfed into their mouth. They don't flinch.
It's going to be another 2 weeks before the prices come down.
Exactly. And they would have bought it. They would have sucked into it. But the minute he called it a Democrat hoax and everybody went, what the fuck? That reaction was extraordinary.
Same with the Epstein files too. So the
yes.
same exact thing. And
I don't.
like,
yes.
wait a minute. So why did you promise in your campaign that you were going to release a Democratic hoax? And
That's
why would
right.
these Democrats that apparently wrote this hoax write themselves into the hoax?
Into it, right? Yeah, but it's full of their donors. Well, then, fuck. Why would they make up something? It's like it's so insane.
Well, I know Bill and Hillary, you're sitting here writing this, but to make this a little bit more believable, what you're going to have to do is throw
Bill,
in at least
you're going to have to take one for the team.
Right. What the fuck? Yeah, that'll sell.
Yeah, which again goes to this whole thing about how Trump's entire, what it really boils down to is, let's see if I can go to this, is the fact that his fucking brain is turned into tapioca. This is this was one about like whether ICE agents enjoy absolute immunity and yada yada. He was asked a question about that in the killing of this woman. This is Renee Nicole Good, who, by the way, there's a reason why I am not going to get suckered into the minutia of once I describe what happened and the actual incident itself is immaterial. Neither of these two people, the cop or her, would have been at this intersection at that time, but for Donald Trump and fucking Stephen Miller. Period. End of story. So if you went back and you were trying to find which is when people, adjudicate or argue a moment, what was the moment where this could have been avoided? Fucking November 5th, 2024 is when it could have been avoided. And this will not be an isolated incident. She was hit by a bullet in Minnesota, but the trigger was pulled at Mar-a-Lago. And that's how it's going to happen. These motherfuckers do not... 100 people are dead in Venezuela because Donald Trump thought offering $50 million for somebody to grab Maduro and hand him over was too much. So that's how this is playing out 100%, not even in the White House. This shit is happening in tents at Mar-a-Lago at the fucking omelet bar in open conversation with his donors and golf buddies at his fucking club. So this is, it's absurd. Anyway, so he goes, everyone's seen it, a woman who's very violent. She's a, very radical person. Very sad what happened. Her friend was very radical. I don't know what that fucking means. Well, I'm going to let people define it, but immunity, you know what immunity, what knows means as well as I do. That was it. Well, they asked him how he would define absolute immunity. He said, well, I'm going to let the people define it, but immunity, you know what immunity, what no means as well as I do. That's what he said. It's fucking gross. And
a good distinction to make in that article is calling it body cam footage. It is not body cam footage.
No, it's a cell phone
footage from the guy holding the cell phone. And I totally agree with your statement and the rhetoric of like this fuse was definitely lit by and when the people voted for Donald Trump the second time. But unfortunately, even though that fuse was lit, there was about 1,001 ways that fuse could have been put out in this specific situation without it ever getting to the point that it got to. Even you're 100% right. But I mean, looking at that specific moment, there are at least 1,000 different ways and policies.
I agree. In a normal world, but then we get that. My problem with that is we get into the whole like post-COVID Donald Trump conversation. If Trump had only done this, he would have solved the problem of COVID and he probably would have gotten reelected at that point. But he couldn't do that because he'd have to be a completely different human being. The problem with a lot of these ICE agents is that they've got 47 days of training, which is a nod to President Trump, instead of the standard minimum of 90 or whatever it is, 3 months.
Well, this guy was on since 2016, so I don't know if you can even take that into account for this guy. You know what I mean?
Sure, but there are other people involved. He's on a team with other people. Like, again, there are a lot of moving parts in this situation. And the point is that guy had just been dragged by a car 6 months ago. He should have been pulled off duty for trauma, period. That's
another policy that was broken. Shooting into a moving vehicle, another policy broken. Standing in front of a vehicle, another policy broken. Not de-escalating, another policy broken.
Right.
Not administering and rendering first aid immediately upon and after the incident, another policy broken. I mean, we could do this all day of how. I
agree, but I would argue that that's policy. That's policy for standard law enforcement. It's FBI, it's state police, and all that kind of stuff. But I don't even know what the fucking real policy inside ICE is. I don't think any of us really do.
You can go to the DOJ website.
No, I mean
1-16.000.
I agree, but I feel like Homan is winking and nodding at these people. I agree with you. I'm just saying I know what the written policy is, and I know it exists, but I know it's not enforced, and it's not going to be enforced by the people who are in charge. Kristi Noem, Homan, Trump himself, none of them give a fuck. They don't care, and it matters.
That's exactly why we have ample video of ICE officers flagrantly wielding their weapons in traffic at crowds,
right? Because they know there's going to be no recourse
like this. Exactly, but that doesn't mean that these people, are just like we're just going to get away with it, and we can't.
Oh no, I agree.
Right, no,
I agree, but you're not gonna see any ramifications of this until Democrats have a plurality or in a state. They file a lawsuit against the federal government in a circumstance, which may happen in this case, which I'm guessing is probably how it's going to.
Because they're withholding evidence for them to cooperate in the investigation.
Exactly.
They're trying to do a joint investigation. You can't do that if you don't have all the facts, the evidence, not to mention the guy leaving the scene of the crime right away when, again, another DOJ policy is you're required to give some information at the scene of the time, unless, again, there's, medical or, extenuating circumstances making you leave the scene of the crime. I mean, there's a million different things that you could point to in this circumstance that whether they were ill-trained or just clearly told and instructed to act in a certain way to create fear, to instill fear, to make it so like we know authoritarians and fascists people don't step up to their authority. So basically, if they make an example of Renee, right? If they make an example of these people, then it will deter others from stepping up to their authority. That's what they thought, or that's what they were hoping for.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, whatever the written policy is, the policy in it is ignore that shit. And that's coming from Homan, that's coming from Trump, and that's coming from Stephen Miller, that's coming from Kristi Noem, if she's not fucking whatever, cosplaying all over the goddamn place. Like she's just there as a spokesmodel, you know what I mean, for what Trump wants to do. Like he literally uses like eye candy distraction for real, like a fucking magician from the 80s. Like, and even sort of talks openly about it. He's like, basically makes his own grab her by the pussy joke about Caroline Leavitt on the plane yesterday.
Falling over?
Yeah, he's like, I got nothing to grab onto, except, Caroline. I'm not going to grab Caroline or whatever. Because he's aware of that's what people think, what the word grab associated with him. He knows that as much. And so at a certain point, my issue is it's not the organization ultimately, because it matters who runs it. And so I know we go back and forth about people like we should abolish ICE or something like that. You're always going to have some sort of immigration customs enforcement in a country, period. I don't necessarily think they have to be together. I think you can separate immigration enforcement and customs from each other. I think there's, like you separate border patrol from interior, whatever, that kind of stuff. But ultimately, it doesn't matter until good people are running it. And this, what really got us into this position, because you would not have seen this if Harris was in office. Period. End of fucking story. There is no goddamn way in any circumstance where somebody would have been like blatantly killed by an ICE officer sent just on these giant fucking showbiz raids of cities under Kamala Harris. Period. End of story. Would not have happened. And if there was a shooting that occurred and a civilian was killed that was not subject to the raid or had not fired on, Kamala fucking Harris certainly wouldn't come out and attack the goddamn woman who died. So there is a difference, and it does matter who's in office, and it does matter who we vote for. And that's the part that I have to, everybody needs to keep their eye on the ball about, because what's going to eat up what the right is going to try to do is use the purity test stuff that's going on their side as a way of attacking our side again. It's, 8 out of 10 of the biggest, BLM sites on Twitter were Macedonian or fucking Russian. They're meant to be spoilers on behalf of the Republican Party to benefit the Republican Party. And so we've got to remember that it does matter. It's not the organization, it's not even the officers. And again, bad officers need to go. It ultimately fish rots from the head. And Donald Trump, when he came in, there's a distinct difference in him telling, look at the rules of engagement in civilian deaths. I mean, he takes a page out of Putin's book. In the first year of his first term, there were more civilian deaths from drone strikes than all 8 years of Obama. And it wasn't like, oops, he was more active. It was the same theaters. It was the same areas, right? Afghanistan.
Like 400%. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was literally it was 80% on a per year basis, and more than in total actual dead people. Because the number matters to me. I know we do a lot of percentage. Like Trump and his fucking 97% number with drugs coming in through the sea. So what, you blew up 13 boats? That's 97% of the drugs. That's basically saying there's no fucking drugs coming in through the sea. Seriously, that stopped 97% of it? What are you, fucking crazy?
Well, it couldn't have been that big of a problem to begin with, if that's
exactly. That's when anybody gives you a percentage without giving you a baseline number is selling you something, and that's one of the parts that frustrates me about this. But the biggest thing about this is that it matters who runs things, and the decision is in the hands of the voters every single time, and it mattered that we, as the public, right now, in this point in history, handed these organizations over to Donald Trump.
I mean, the problem is, you're absolutely right. The fish does rot from the head, but if left for too long, then at some point the tail starts looking just like the head does. And in this matter, I think, in my opinion, I'll speak for myself, I think immigration and the way that this country treats it, its enforcement agencies and the way that they've been doing their recruiting, the lack of proper training, and either lack of proper training or care to execute that training, even if they did get it, has been persistent and going on for far too long. And in my eyes, whether you call it abolish or strip it away and rebuild it completely from the fucking ground up with new structure, new leadership, new fucking tactics, new policies, new laws regarding the treatment of people and how they can do and say and where they can go and who they can touch, who they can arrest. It's too far gone in my eyes. I think it needs to be totally fucking reworked, revamped, if you want to call it abolished, renamed, and fucking, again, new leadership, new tactics, new everything. That's what needs to happen. The same way as the immigration process in this country and the asylum process in this country needs to be totally revamped and reworked. And we can't have, fucking 10 judges looking at 35 million different fucking cases and then wonder why all these people are waiting 10, 20 years, right? and that people are coming here illegally, not wanting to wait the 10 to 20 years. So
you know what I mean? I hear you, but what I will say is that the same organizations under Obama and Biden, by and large, without the human percentage that will always fuck up a certain circumstance, there will always be a human element of between 1 and 20% fuck up range, and depending on the depth of complexity of the whatever you're talking about, or whether it's a political disagreement versus a material disagreement on, or just a conflict with reality, that they managed to work out without these kind of situations by and large under Biden. And they managed to work out this way under Obama. The difference was that there was more of an influx. That was the answer to it. So they did most of their enforcement inside the country. They did most of their where they would send in teams and get somebody, but it was after they'd already been through the legal process by and large and were expunged from the country because they had committed a crime. Trump is trying to do pre-crime, and it's based on this assumption that once an illegal, always an illegal, meaning that if you are willing to break the law to get into the country, you're willing to break every law. So every child, every woman, every person who crosses the border is a potential rapist, drug smuggler, murderer, psychopath. That's what the whole crazy person, that's what he's selling. But the reality is that these organizations didn't run like this under Biden. They simply did not. The difference is that, and I think this butts up against what you're talking about in the asylum structure, the immigration structure that we have to actually work on. There is a comprehensive immigration bill that's been languishing for a long time. And a good portion of the funding for that Trump said, you don't need a new bill, you just need a new president, right? That whole thing, which was not true, because as soon as he came in, his policy had to be paid for, and they needed to pass a bill. So all the funding that was in the immigration bill that the Democrats and the Republicans worked out under Biden was put into this big bullshit bill to pay for what he's talking about. So, and he declared everything a tactical emergency. So it allowed him to tap into extra money to treat every immigrant like a terrorist and stuff like that. And there is a distinct difference between how Democrats run this and how Republicans run this. And there's been no bleed over. There really hasn't.
We've also been stifled at a lot of points by leftovers and people that remain from the first Trump administration or from the Bush administration that are still lingering inside of these agencies that absolutely have a fucking detrimental impact. And again, I'm against kids in cages regardless of what president built them or who's sending them in there. And I'm also against U.S. citizens being fucking murdered on the streets of our country. Not saying that you're not implying that whatsoever. I'm just,
No, I get you. We speak exasperately. I get it. Yep.
Sorry, I just want to make that clear. Sorry. I heard the way it was sounded when it came out of my mouth. I didn't want to apply that whatsoever. But you know what I mean? I just think it's too far at this point. I mean, we could look up under Obama, Bush, Biden. I mean, and if you want to say to a large extent to the on an overwhelming basis, you can. But if you want to go back, and we could absolutely pull up instances, statistics that definitely will prove that not everything is still hunky dory under Democrat leadership, even under these agencies that again have been mistreating and mishandling people for quite a long time now. This isn't a new thing even under Trump the first time. You know what I mean? This is a long process, a long fucking problem that we've had of meddling in other countries, you know what I mean, to the point of destabilizing them. That destabilization forces a mass immigration or a mass migration, and then we treat them inhumanely when they show up at our doorstep for something that we in part caused or told.
Well, I would think I think the last I think in the near present, in the current unpleasantness, that the biggest one was COVID. COVID was a singular act that happened the world over, and the destabilization, whether a country was teetering or not, the biggest wave came because of COVID. And just like supply shock as opposed to inflation, which is what we had, we did not have monetary inflation in this fucking country. We had supply shock. That a lot of the people who came to the border were literally coming from countries that were decimated by COVID because the world economy had shut down. They had been involved in sort of a midpoint in the globalist trade routes. Stuff coming from China, going there and then coming up, stuff coming from Europe or Africa and coming up. And so once that stopped, and of course, a lot of them relied on oil. And so once the transportation, slammed to a halt and the oil was negative $24 a barrel, that's what started this march. This wasn't Obama came in and started knocking off leaders. And then 8 years later, there was this roll that, it's very, that's very much a 70s into the 80s blowback aspect of this. The reality, though, is that we should have been more aware. I think the failure, if anything, of the Biden administration in terms of immigration was understanding that COVID would cause something like this, that this was going to be a part of it, and that treating it like an emergency, for example, like Trump is using emergency powers illegally everywhere. But I think Biden could have treated this as an immigration emergency and said, for national security reasons, we have to reassign a bunch of judges all over the country to be immigration judges for a year so that we can move these people through and figure out who's an asylum seeker and who isn't and who's legit, so that you could deal with it head on and make a big show of it so that maggots wouldn't be able to use it as fuel to get Trump back into office. It needed to be more upfront. But it wasn't, the United States didn't destabilize South America and cause a herd of people to come up in 2021 and 2022. The world was destabilized by the COVID epidemic. And,
again, the world was destabilized because of the mishandling from the United States president, right? It didn't have to get to that. We don't know what would have happened had we acted accordingly with
I agree. But it was also the reason people came to the United States is because the new American president, Biden, actually stabilized our economy in the same way that, Obama got 2008. He inherited that mess and caught all the shit for 2 years. I mean, Republicans talk up and down about how more people went on food stamps under Obama than anybody else, in his first term than in every first term in history. They, by and large, all came off in the next 2 years, and we normaled out that number. But it was specifically in response to an emergency. It wasn't just, blanket socialism, charity, whatever they wanted to fucking sell it as. Yeah. And the same thing is true here. Trump, the man, uniquely fucked up the COVID response. It wasn't, states, blue states especially, but even red states were like, fuck it, mask up, take care of yourselves. Like we all lived through it. Everybody was shut down by and large. Even if the White House was like, go on out, buy some shit. It sounded dumb to everybody. And then Biden comes in, jumpstarts the economy again, gets everybody vaccinated, gets us rolling again. And then, of course, that means that countries that were either listening to Trump and fucked up just as bad in South America, or didn't have a choice because the economics were not in their favor. There's a ton of people that are going to go, we got to get the fuck out of here and go someplace. And the only place in our hemisphere that we can go to that's actually got an economy is the United States or Canada. And we can't get to Canada except through the United States, and we got to walk. That's what happened. That's not even like my opinion of what went on or emotionally what I would like to have happened. That was literally what occurred 20, 21, 22 specifically. And then the ramifications.
We would have seen something like that even without COVID too. I mean, I think people were itching and waiting for Donald Trump to get out of office and to have somebody more sane and maybe, acceptable, let's just say, to go in, to make their trek into the United States.
Republicans, along with right-wing groups and Russians and the Chinese, were putting ads in South American newspapers saying Biden will let you in for free. So they meant to use immigration as a tool. And again, when you talk about bring me your tired, you're poor, you're whatever, but yearning to breathe free. That's the immigrant base that we used to get from Mexico a lot. These were, hardworking people who came up here just to get a chance at something better when in their own country it was just a near failed state. The people who came during 21 and 22 that by and large made the immigrant march up here had money to pay coyotes, sometimes twice. These were the well-off families that drove, that flew, that came up there, sat in a camp for a while, but their intention was because they were paying somebody $20,000 to get their family across. And if they got kicked out, they had another $20,000 to do it, which is very different from somebody looking to get a fucking, textile job in New York City in 1947. So it's a different group of human beings, and it was a different, and it was strategized. And you have a responsibility if you want to be charitable and open-hearted and care for people, to make sure that program you set up to be charitable and careful and open-hearted doesn't get taken over by people who will use your good nature and undermine it, because that's what Republicans are looking for. That's what happened in Minneapolis with the Somalians. That's what went on there, because that's what they want to have.
Not to notice that, like the ICE officers and the DHS agents that you're looking at in these protests, it's tough not to recognize what side the bigots and the racists and the white supremacists, if they're in there trying to instigate and trying to, go back at protesters, it's hard not to notice what side of the line they're on and who's congregating with them and who's meeting with them in the U-Haul trucks beforehand and kind of shooting the shit with these racists and the people giving the highs, the Sig Heils and stuff. Who's meeting with them? Because it's not the protesters. It's not the fucking people that are mad and upset about the murder. It's the people that are that caused the murder. It's the people that were responsible for it.
It's Stephen Miller fanboys.
So, I mean, again, that says to me that, okay, not only have these people been recruited in a very specific way, using very specific rhetoric, very specific graphics, and very specific terms to go after a very specific subset of people, hence the January 6th people that were pardoned, the Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, those type of people.
Yep.
Like, not only that, well, that tells me that it's gotten to a point where you can't even tell the difference between the people that are meant to protect you as far as immigrations and customs and the people that are instigating and being bigoted and racist. So at that point, it says to me that this has gotten way too far and something drastic needs to be done. And again, whether it's abolish in a new way of doing things, in a totally new agency and a totally new leadership and Congress, and everybody comes together and we say, okay, this is the time that we need to focus and definitely do away with these detrimental policies, and let's figure out the ones that were working and we'll use those and we'll build from there. Whatever you want to call it. We're at a fucking tipping point right now in this country, and these people right now, and the way that they're acting, the way that they're treating U.S. citizens, the way that they're treating people in a broader general sense, is going to stoke more and more violence and more fucking chaos in this country, and it's not going to help. So if something,
I agree, but something's going to fucking. To the Republicans, that's a feature, not a bug. And that's what you have to understand you're dealing with, I think, is that this is not an accident. Homan might think this guy overstepped and it's going to cost him something, but Trump thinks it's fucking cool. Stephen Miller and those guys are high-fiving in the White House over this woman's death. And they're not going to change.
And ICE that will high-five him as well.
Yes, I agree.
I'm not going to go to war. I'm not going to battle with anybody on my fucking side that in a previous time was high-fiving Stephen Miller or liking Donald Trump's tweets or anything fucking like that, or applauding supporting the death of Renee Nicole Good. I'm not going to fucking start. I'm not going to battle. I'm not going to a sporting event. I'm not going to fucking church with anybody in my group that's like that. You know what I mean? So never mind. Try to revamp.
Yeah, I don't. Okay, I don't know. I don't know where that circumstance would come in.
Well, I don't want these people in this agency. That's the whole point. We're talking about coming in and having new leadership, but the leadership can only do so much. If we still got these fucking Stephen Miller acolytes and the people that love the fucking bigotry and racism fulfilling these fucking ranks in ICE and DHS, then it doesn't matter what the fuck happens in the leadership. It doesn't. If you got all these assholes still left over, they're gonna
it does. It does because where they're assigned and what they do or if they stay in their job is the responsibility of the leadership.
Good, because now the leadership will be more focused on trying to maintain order and trying to, get everybody out of their ranks that might be affiliated with Nazis or a white supremacist group.
Right.
Instead of focusing on how to help the immigrants and how to serve and actually get the dangerous immigrants maybe that are around us out of there. So they're not actually focused on their job. They're focused on how to better control their own agents so they don't look racist, so they don't look bigoted, so they don't shoot American citizens. That's not what the leadership is there for. That's not what they're there to do. They're not there to play fucking.
I understand that, but that won't be a permanent job. That will be a response to the reality we're in, though. Yeah, but that would be a response to the reality we're in. That is the job that needs cleaning up. In the same way that, most police officers during a hurricane aren't doing standard beat walking. You know what I mean? Like, hopefully it's something you solve during that period of time, because Trump is effectively a natural disaster, and if you look at him as such, that kind of damage, like you either believe you can rebuild or you believe you can't, and I think you can, and that's fundamentally because we have in worse circumstances. Genuinely, the reality though is that what they want you to do is sort of give up on the law and order aspect of it so that they can claim it for themselves. They want to basically be able to beat their chest and go, the Democrats don't even care about rules anymore. They want to throw out the enforcement part of all of our laws. Therefore, you can't have any laws without enforcement. And that's the weapon that they will use.
Meanwhile, who's saying that?
Anybody who I'm not saying you're saying it. I'm saying that's what it sounds like. And it sounds. Oh, well, that
I've never heard anybody
all the abolish ICE. All the abolish ICE protesters.
It's abolish ICE to make a fucking organization that actually works and does what it's fucking.
I hear you. I hear you. But that's not what that's.
That's what they do. That's what abolish ICE means. Abolish this fucking ICE right now. The organization that stands as ICE right now. Right. And let's fucking create an organization.
But that's not going to be on the sign. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not arguing the material restructuring of a law enforcement organization. I'm arguing how they are going to message it and whether our message gets through to people in a way that they can't weaponize. And what that ultimately is, the sign isn't abolish ICE and replace it with something that's more unified with what the original, reasonings for in the treaties.
Revamp ICE, rework,
right? Exactly.
Whatever the fuck you want to call it, but I mean, make it clear that obviously there's nobody on the left, and I know, to make it clear.
I think it's much simpler. I think you start with fuck Trump and any of his GOP enablers. And we start right there because every Democrat I've ever seen, talk about this, even when they're sort of hawkish on immigration, talks about it with a respect for human life that just doesn't exist in this administration right now. This is not a lesser of two evils circumstance, and it's even beyond Trump's generalized fuck up nature, like he did COVID, to something that this is an active choice. This isn't a mistake. This isn't weak. This isn't it slipped by. I didn't realize Homan was such a fucking animal. Quite the opposite. I think Homan's getting orders from above to be even harsher, but they think he looks bumbly and dumb, and so he's like the dopey fuck, like Kristi Noem is the magician's assistant. And so they're using them, and to kind of stir up this, because Mushmouth or cosplay Barbie, will eat up a cycle. But ultimately, this isn't we hired Sean Duffy and planes are falling out of the air. Fix it, fucko, or you're next, or any of that shit. This is directed. This is an active measure by this White House. This, more so than almost any other thing they're doing. Like Trump raising the budget on the military, by 50% in a year. after his first trillion, he's asking for $1.5 trillion. You know, like, if he gets it, he'll take it. If he can't get all of it, he's asking for more than he wants. He views it as a negotiation. That's how the viewers will look at it. That's how the maggots will look at it. That's how he's going to receive it. But this is different. This is, he's a racist, pro-eugenics, like tapioca-brained old fuck. And he surrounded himself with racists, not simply like, oh dear, we've got to have a border or we don't have a country. Like, that's what they're appealing to. That's the line they use. But he wants them out. Look at how he talks about Cuba today. Holy fuck. So he's like, this is really about the Cubans that are in our country right now. Well, why does he bring that up? So they can go back. That's what this is about. Like, his whole thing is get the Cubans out of Florida. How are you going to do it? If we have to invade Cuba and depose the fucking, administration there so that these people can go back and start businesses and get the fuck out of Miami. That's what he means. He doesn't mean we've got to protect Cuba and the Cuban people and have them live freedom and, spread democracy, any of that kind of shit. He sees Cubans in fucking Florida and he's grossed out. That's what that is.
100% right. It's definitely purposely done, and he's definitely kind of using these forces as his own private security team to kind of instill fear, again, in a population he's trying to control. Absolutely. That's right. But the problem is they have so much time, so much funding coming out their way, and their rhetoric and their recruiting tactics are so mainly focused at one specific group of, white supremacists, white nationalists, anybody that hates brown and black people, that has a fetish for guns, loves body armor, loves that fucking role play, cosplay bullshit. That, by the time
don't talk about me like I'm not here.
By the time we do have, the next Democratic president in there, God knows what that fucking agency even resembles at that point. I mean, we know it looks bad now, and it's egregious what's going on right now, but God knows what it looks like in 3 years after, more funding, this recruiting, circus that they've been going on, recruiting more people. And like you said, it's all about instilling fear, and it's purposely done, and it's done at the behest of Donald Trump, but they're out there recruiting people that are willing to go along. They're willing to act accordingly, right? These people are willing to instill the fear. Like, it wouldn't be possible, even if Donald Trump wanted them to, even if Tom Homan instructed them to, if they had a good, well-trained people on there and people with a good head on their shoulders saying, no, I'm obviously not going to treat people that way. No, I'm obviously going to follow the policies, the rules, and the regulations, then they would still have a hard time. The problem is they've recruited the people. They've used these tactics wisely to recruit the same MAGA sycophants, the same January 6 people that were pardoned for their violence, to enact their fucking private and very specific plans.
They're benching they're benching anybody who won't go along, like you're talking about, who won't acquiesce to this. They're benching those people and threatening them with the loss of their pensions.
Right.
So this isn't it seems like there's this almost like pearl clutching, oh my God, how could this fucking happen kind of thing, when it's an active measure from these assholes. And so I get it.
But it's something we both want about, Hal. I mean, this is something probably not to a specific extent, not to, specific circumstances, but to a large fucking extent, people like you, people like me, and, people all over the greater fucking, political media sphere were actively telling the American people that this is something that you're going to deal with if you don't vote the right way. If you don't vote the right way, this is going to happen. And if it's not this, it's going to be fucking 10 times worse. And that's exactly what's going on right now. And I think right now is the most dangerous time, because along the lines of what you brought up earlier in the article that you showed, Donald Trump, when speaking to the New York Times and saying that international law it doesn't pertain to him anymore. He's not bounded by international law. And basically the only thing stopping him right now is, paraphrasing, is his mental acuity. I mean, that's one of the most dangerous things.
His mind and his morals, which he has neither.
Say he got into politics. Dead seriously, right hand up. That might be the most dangerous thing that he's ever said as his fucking time is in politics is no more international law. I'm not bound by the rules and regulations of international law. Basically, all I'm going off right now is my mental acuity. And anybody that's watched closely enough knows what Donald Trump's mental acuity looks like right now. And it's zilch.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Mark P. just putting up there. Thank you. Appreciate that. Democrats rock. Thank you guys for the super chats. Thank you for the support. And don't forget, by the way, Boston Brian live streams and follow him on all of his socials and all that kind of stuff. Check out his show regularly. We sometimes will raid into his show when the timing is right and that kind of stuff. And we'll continue to do that. The Sparklers love us some Boston Brian. And by the way, big shout out on Steph's show this morning to the Sparklers and just the volume of you guys showing up and making noise. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. It is one of the best ways that we grow all the good channels that have been sort of languishing in the background that don't get corporate help, like some of the folks that are trying to depress the Democratic vote. But us that are actually working for a living, these two guys here, busting our hump, trying to make something out of nothing. So remember that and subscribe to all of his channels. It doesn't cost you anything to do it. It's a great way to start. And also, even if you don't have time to watch his live stream, drop by, drop a hello, give a thumbs up. Those kind of things help immeasurably in the algorithm. And then you can watch it at your leisure, when it's happening. That'll really help. I'm glad you learned the silent thank you sign language thing for when you get a super chat and you got to keep talking. It's my doing that for a while now. It's so useful. Like when you're like, you see something, you're like, somebody just said something cool, and you're like, I do this all the time. It's becoming a tick.
I tried to go double hand with the sign language, but the drive-bys are a thing in California, so I got to be careful.
Right. Yeah, it's like one dude thought I was swearing at him in public when I was really just singing a Prince song to myself. It was the song P Control, and the guy literally thought I was swearing at him. He's like, fuck you then. And I'm like, does it ever strike you that I'm doing it in a certain rhythm? Anyways, so there are a couple of things, that are the brighter spots in this, is that I do think there is a genuine panic in MAGA land, both about his, They do not like, by and large, whether they'll do anything about it. I know people don't want to believe that they're actually but it is, whether it's Dave Smith or Candace Owens or whatever, or Tucker Carlson, these needles are digging in. They're feeling it, whether they like it or not. And it's enraging them at the White House that these folks are not excited about another Iran bombing. They're not excited about Venezuela. They're not excited even about Greenland. They don't think it's funny or interesting or a good distraction. And most of them are responding to it like, this is just to avoid talking about the Epstein files. Like, this is shit we used to say all the time, right? That it was all this shit is an obvious distraction from the Epstein files or whatever. Well, now that's by and large, everywhere I see a huge line, even the ones that are trying to deny it, they have to reference it. Like Benny Johnson or these guys will say, like, everybody's going to say this is just to distract from the Epstein files, blah, 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 whatever his rando fucking show is where he reads Twitter.
It's crazy. Like, because we pull up like a couple of America First accounts every now and again, like I said, just to kind of get the temperature feel, who they're talking about. And to the extent that they actually sound almost directly like liberals or lefties or progressives in some of their rhetoric when they're going after, again, whether it's Candace or, Donald Trump or Tim Pool or Ben Shapiro or whatever, it's getting pretty fucking comical. It really is. Because, you know what I mean? Like I said, they're at their strongest and they're at their most effective, these political commentators, these podcasters, when again, they're in lockstep, they get their talking points straight from Donald Trump in the fucking White House, and they all go out and they say the same shit. They all have the same lies about the Democratic Party or the politicians or the policies or whatever it is. That's when they're most effective. But right now, they're attacking each other, and they're so not focused on midterms. They're so not focused on Donald Trump's polling numbers or how he could get out of this hole that he's in. That, again, that is leaving the fucking right side of the field totally wide open for us, and we definitely need to utilize that moment.
Every time you see a crack, stick a fucking crowbar in that thing and start wiggling it. That's what this is about. And and that is Epstein files, affordability hoax, and one of the elements of immigration, which is largely what we talked about this morning, and you got to come on again sometime because we'll talk about the economic aspect of things as well. One of the things that they're noticing as well, and this is why there's been so much violence and why even the agents themselves who have been promised these raids, like think about who they're hiring and what they're expecting. Same as the MAGAs. They expected hundreds of thousands of people rounded up on fucking buses and put on airplanes. Like they thought they were going to get rid of immigrants in this country, like the end of the Afghan war, right? With people fucking clinging to an airplane going back to Venezuela, right? That's what they thought. And there aren't that many people here. And by and large, 98% of them, as usual, are busting their asses doing a thankless job for low pay.
Right. Well, paying taxes that you receive no benefit for.
Exactly. Paying into Social Security, never getting anything back. And there's not 35. There was the recidivism rate on returns. Fuck. Yeah.
To your point, did you hear Tom Homan on with Kristen Welker on Meet the Press? So basically, in one of the moments that he had, and I'm sure you'll, if you haven't gone over it, you will, because I know you doing that stuff.
Yeah.
He literally tries to brag about somebody on Fox. It's tough to hear what he has to say because he talks like this, so you can't really understand. But he says some name about some writer on Fox News, and he says that there's been 18 people, and he tries to list like the egregious, I think, sexual crimes that they were allegedly arrested for. Not 18,000, not 1,800.
Right.
Not 80.
Not 180. Right.
Fucking people he brags about. And he says only some of them have, like, those, the rape, the murders, the child sex crime, whatever it may be. 18 people he was bragging about. Think of how many people. Just think of how many American citizens. I think the last count was something around 200 American citizens have either been, arrested to some extent, detained, held up in their daily lives because of what's been going on. 18 people.
For 18 fucking people.
They said. All the criminals, all the rapists, 18 people. And this is a Fox News report, so God knows if it's even 18. It might be 8.
Yeah, well, and again, it's a lower number than fucking Biden. They're less effective. They're worse at their job, even in the material functional sense. And so, like, I completely agree. I want to, Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock, is waiting in the wings, and I'm going to bring her in a minute. But I want to remind everybody, again, subscribe to Boston Brian's channel. Check out his live streams. Follow him. Yes?
Can I just get one thing? And I appreciate you. Sorry to cut you off. Just before I go, I do want to announce just real quick that my first partnership with the 69 Sniffing Brigade, the NAFO boys, we're trying to raise €23,000 to send a truck to the 72nd Mechanized Brigade in Ukraine. So if you go to help.99/patches/Boston Brian and throw in a 3, a 5, a 10, or whatever it is, it would be very much appreciated. I make nothing, go straight to the people and go straight into the trucks for the warriors in Ukraine. So sorry to cut you off. I just want to make sure to get that in, dude. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no, not at all. It's amazing. So the links will be on your.
The links are in my link tree. I will put it in my YouTube bio link as well. Again, it's help99.co, and then you can go /patches/Boston Brian. It'll take you right to my campaign. Ton of great campaigns on there, all raising vehicles for a great cause. And again, nothing made or received on my end at all. So.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I'll let you go, my brother, and we'll see you again real soon.
Yeah. Appreciate you. And hello, Tara. Right. Thank you. Appreciate you. Sorry to keep you.
Not at all. All right. Cheers. See you later, brother. There she is, ladies and gentlemen, Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock, joining us this fine morning. Hi
Can
there.
You hear me okay? Am I hearable?
Sibilance. You sound great.
Toast. Check 2. Mm-hmm. Hey, I believe this is the first time we have seen and spoken since the rollover into 2025
That's
2.0.
right. Yeah.
So I would like to begin, as my mother and I do, we have a tradition every New Year's. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that we say to each other is quotes from Trading Places. So Merry New Year.
Oh, right.
So that's what
Happy New Year. In this country, we say Happy New Year. Thank you for correcting my English, which stinks. I am Nom Jaibako, exchange student from Cameroon. Ha. Yeah.
We are moving. Yes. So we start
but
that. But
you're wearing lederhosen. Sorry. That could go on forever.
Yeah, for sure. From Sweden, it's all embedded in my DNA. You throw one at me, I will catch it and toss it back. Looking good, Hal Sparks.
Hey, thanks. Holding it together. Feeling good, Billy Ray. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Gen X. Thank you, Gen X. Okay, so hi. Hello. And here we are.
Yeah.
And that's how I wanted to start, because also that's how I ended 2025 with positivity, and I really intended to start this year with positivity as well, because I had you on the show when I sat in for John Fugelsang.
Yep.
And for the last 2 shows on Sirius XM Progress for John of 2025. So I had you there because you're awesome and smart and such. And then I was able to showcase my friend Alicia and her documentary called Menopunks. And then the next night I had Joe Walsh, and then I had my friend Ben Landsberg from Low Bar Corral kind of literally singing us out and into hopefully a better time. And unfortunately, 2026 just isn't getting hip to the rhythm yet. So,
right.
Shut up already. Damn, because this is 10 years since we've lost both Bowie and Prince. So I feel like this decade, I'm done. I'm done with the decade of Trump blight.
Yeah.
I'm done with this 10-year cycle of everything being shitty. And my intention for 2026 is obviously we have shit to talk about. We're going to talk about it in a second. But again, intentions for 2026 are no one steals our joy while we're fighting for our democracy. That's the vibe. And that's where I'm going. And so and also I just want to send a very special shout out to Boston Brian. I need to get on his show because first of all, I love him. He's brilliant. Yeah. He's awesome. He's a great addition to the world of truth in the independent media that we need so very much. But also his accent takes me back to my years at Emerson College in Boston. And I'm like listening to you guys while I'm getting ready. And he's like, it's hot. It's just hot to do this. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's wicked hot. It's such a piss that I have to keep doing this. This fucking shit all the fucking time, like, oh my God. So I just, again, in any moment where I can find a humor, a joy, a thing to extract a moment where we can get back to our true selves, I shall do that. And as we're talking about the world being on fire, even worse than we thought it could ever get, on Saturday, we were still in the streets. But in this case, and as I said to people, and I sent a photo of myself at the protest to our wonderful producer, Andrea. And most of the time, Portland shows up. And as my Senator Jeff Merkley says, we protest with peace and whimsy. And this weekend, we did not do that. We showed up. But there was no whimsy because we were too fucking mad to be whimsical at this point. We're just we've had it. We've had it. And we're now witnessing the mass justification of the murder of an American citizen because they just can't be wrong about Trump. And they can't ever be wrong. They immediately jump to conclusions. Their conclusions are wrong. We have video proof of their conclusions being wrong. Renee Good is not a domestic terrorist. She wasn't an agitator. She wasn't there to start shit. The wheels of her vehicle were always pointed away. Jonathan Ross had time to switch his phone to his other hand so that he could take his gun out and shoot her in the face 3 times. Her last words were, "I'm not mad at you, dude." His words to her after she was dead was fucking bitch. Right. We live where the truth lives. When the truth makes us angry and uncomfortable, we have to make sure we're sharing it. This is the ugliest truth about the United States of America. The Republican Party foments violence, justifies its existence, continues to manifest it and manufacture it, all because Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. Human beings are being used as distractions. Human beings in America, American citizens, American bodies, human bodies are being used as distractions from Donald Trump in the Epstein files. So, that's where we are. And that is a truth that nobody can like, but we can all push back against and share. So what we saw last week was them trying to rewrite January 6th. And 24 hours later, we watched them try to rewrite the murder of Renee Good. They are not getting away with those things on our watch. They just aren't. That does not happen while I have breath in my body and you have breath in yours.
Yeah, but here's the thing, and I'm going to beat this horse till it gets up and starts pulling the wagon again. The reality is none of this will materially change as long as Republicans hold power.
Correct.
Period. It's not to the point where this should be so extreme. and so easily recognizable as extreme that anybody who brings up the both sides do it or lesser of two evils horse shit is in on it. At a certain point, if you dare even discuss that, like, Kamala Harris would have done something similar, or we'd be invading fucking Venezuela or threatening Greenland if she was in there, like, I'm giving you credit. I'm not going to call you a fucking moron. I think you're actually a conniving scumbag. You do have a brain in your head. You have to be working for the other side to even talk like that. And that's, I mean, like, I've always had my problem with the TYT crowd and their fucking anti-democratic horseshit. But now it's particularly egregious in this kind of like this blanket dismissal, as if, you know, that Trump isn't a factor. Like, it's just, this is the way it is. This is the situation. This is immigration in this is the United States of America. Like, no, motherfucker. Half of us voted against this horse shit, and we would never okay it if we had any of the power to do so. But voters, by and large, a good 6 million of them, sat with their thumb up their ass and went, I don't know, man, what's the difference? And we're finding out what the difference is. This is the fucking difference. Renee Good found out what the fucking difference was.
Absolutely.
Babies with fucking cancer getting treatment in Texas are finding out what the difference is. And you know who else is finding out? Red State SNAP recipients who had people like Josh Hawley sounding like Bernie Sanders talking about how people desperately rely on government assistance or they're going to go hungry because his state is a fucking leech.
Yeah. What about the new vaccine protocols where they're only recognizing certain diseases to get vaccinated against? Fuck you. Why do you want to kill Americans? Why do you want to kill American children? You are not the pro-life party. Not when you spent your Sunday, devout Christians, quote unquote, in the Maga cult, spent their Sunday blaming Renee Good for her own murder. That's what they did. That's how they spent Christmas Day, you know, talking about Somalians and how they don't deserve to exist. They spend their Sundays being violent. That's what they do. Fomenting violence, supporting Jonathan Roth, not supporting Renee Good. I don't care who you are. I don't care what it says on your voter registration card. This is not Republican versus Democrat. This is human. This is a human rights issue. It's abhorrent. It doesn't matter what. And it's I see a lot of it. I'm seeing a lot of MAGA women doing this, which is so fucking disgusting. Blaming the victim is never, ever the way to go, right? Why were you there? Why were you wearing that short skirt? Why wasn't she with her kids? Her kids were in school. And as a mother who used to have to do school drop-off, sometimes you don't have to go to work right away, or sometimes you're not scheduled to work, or maybe you work from home, or maybe it's none of your fucking business why she was there. Maybe she was just exercising her First Amendment right to protest, which is exactly what Renee Good was doing. It's abhorrent watching them justify homicide, murder because Trump wants them to justify murder. That's where they are. That's who they are, and that is the pushback. That is the dialogue. That is the response. Anytime they try to this is what you did. This is how you make it stick to them, Democrats running for re-election. This is our defining message. This violence, this evil that comes, because you said fish rots from the head. It all starts with Trump.
Yep.
Everybody's still supporting Trump as a traitor to this country, fomenting violence, and they all deserve to rot with him. They all deserve the same fate together. All of them. Christine, I don't know how Christine Noem has a job today, that she hasn't been fired already. She's going to be impeached. They're all going to be impeached eventually, but we need action now. She needs to be fired today. Renee Good is dead because of her.
Yeah,
her and Trisha McLaughlin and Tom Homan and Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin.
No. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to push back on that one way. Kristi Noem should have never been anywhere near this office in the first fucking place.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's, I think, implied.
Right. But it isn't, because it seems like we've got the ability to do it. Like, if Democrats had a shadow fucking committee meeting in the House or the Senate to call for her impeachment, they wouldn't get the votes to get rid of her. You know why? Because every Democrat could sign on to it and Republicans won't. It matters. And that's the distinction that I'm going to keep. Nope.
What
Republicans
about the ones who voted to release? Wait. What about the ones who voted to release the Epstein files? Those same people should
That's not the same thing. Nope. They won't view this as the same thing.
It isn't the same thing, but it still matters. It's the same holding Trump accountable
not
for
to them.
committing crime.
Not to them.
I know that. I'm saying it to you. It is the same thing, though.
I agree, but the woman I voted for in the last election never would have put this woman in charge of that organization, or somebody like Tom Homan. Period. End of story. And I think one of these things, when we call for like accountability, the frustrating part for me is, and I'm not gonna let people off the fucking hook about this, is that we have no tool of accountability now. The Democrats lost the House and the Senate, and we do not have the administration. And by and large, the voters, through apathy, or even if you believe there was cheating, the fact that it was, it wasn't too big to rig on our side, when we have a volume of voters, a plurality of voters over the Republicans, is that the blame lies on our side. This was totally foreseeable. This was completely predictable, and it was completely obvious to anybody that Trump was talking about this kind of hateful, violent bullshit rhetoric, that he was going to put these kind of people in charge, that they were going to do this kind of shit. And everybody went after, Biden for being old and milquetoast, or for fucking Harris's laugh, or being, too lady, too brown, whatever their problem was that kept them at home during that election cycle. And this is what happened.
Yeah. I posted yesterday, all I really wanted to be able to do yesterday was watch the new season of The Night Manager that no one knew was coming and now is out and is awesome. If you watch the original The Night Manager starring Tom Hiddleston, it's so good. I wanted, if Kamala Harris was president, I would have been able to enjoy binge watching the first 3 episodes yesterday, because it would have been a regular Sunday. I could have, I would have got, just a regular Sunday where you're not the government is humming along smoothly, so you don't have to pay attention. You don't have to micromanage what a Democratic president is doing. We got so spoiled during the 8 years of Obama because he was so competent at his job. You did not have to watch him under a microscope. You weren't worried that he was going to kill you on the daily. So in a normal society, you'd be doing whatever you used to do on a Sunday before the blight of humanity that is Trump took over the news cycle. So again, it's that 10-year cycle of that we are responsible for breaking, which we can do, but Democrats really got to fight hard this particular election cycle in 2026. And when I had Joe Walsh on Sirius XM Progress, when I sat in for John Fugelsang, what he said was he doesn't even care who runs for office as a Democrat anymore. He just wants fighters. Get fighters out there telling the truth, never ceasing, making sure the message of truth is getting out as loudly as possible. I kind of pushed back on that, and I said, well, I don't want a game show host to step in and be the candidate. I want someone who's risen up in politics and has the experience in leading and maybe writing some laws and having them passed, and having some government experience, because we have seen now what happens when you go from zero to president, and that's not a good thing either.
Right.
He's not wrong that we need fighters. We need people to be fighting smarter. And I think we have plenty of tools to do that.
Define fighter to me.
A fighter is someone who doesn't back down when somebody pushes back. A fighter is someone who's not afraid of a mean tweet or getting their hands a little bit dirty when it comes to, here's what you did, here's what you supported, here's the policy, here's the law you voted against. That's a fighter remains where the truth is. And the truth, whether you like it or not, and you and I have talked about this extensively,
somebody who argues
you and I
well.
are fighters. Who argues well and doesn't allow the conversation to be manipulated or any goalposts getting moved with any of these MAGA tactics or the whataboutisms or the false equivalences. There used to be a time in our politics when the opponents could disagree.
Sounds like a debater.
Informed, smart, and experienced is those are three qualities that I would like in a candidate, aside from the fact, also, knowledge of the Constitution is helpful. Some civics, have some knowledge in civics. Going back 10 years, I was begging the media, begging them to ask Trump questions about civics. How does our government work? Do you understand how to pass a law? And nobody did. I would just like our government to be run by people who understand how the government is supposed to work. But here we are. And so we have a new an election cycle here. We are now in the midterms. It's happening. We have to have unifying messages of getting the truth out, which is why we need a Democratic press secretary. And I will keep saying that. I've only been saying it for a year.
I mean, it's a job you could actually take on as part of your daily posting as a video every day you could put up, throwing it out there. That's what till somebody does.
I was talking to Sherry Jacobus on, that was the first podcast that I did of this new year last Friday or on the third, whenever the third was. Anyway, and she and I have been talking about Democratic press secretary for a year. And I said to her, you know what? It's you and me now. You and I are just going to do this we should just have that where at the end of the day, every day, we look at what Caroline lied about and then we just tell the truth. But the Democrats are sort of doing that on the DNC YouTube, where there's like two little, they're not, I shouldn't say little. They're Gen Z, so they're young, telegenic. And they kind of say what Democrats did, but they're not promoting it. Nobody knows about it. It's not out in front of the media. They're not taking questions. It's not a daily presser. That's what we need. That's what we need. And so you're not wrong. And it's what we do. That's what our entire side does every day collectively. But again, we don't have one destination where we can go, that person is telling the truth, unless it's Rachel Maddow and Lawrence O'Donnell.
Right.
Nicole Wallace. I don't have live TV, so I can't watch MSNBC, but I don't miss it either. But anyway, the point being, we remain in the truth all the time, whether people like it or they don't, and you and I have had so many extensive conversations about why facts matter, whether you like them or you don't, because most of the time the truth is really something that you don't like. It's something that you have to learn to live with. It's often disappointing. It's often one of those.
Yeah.
So, but go ahead and learn how to live with it, because that's what an adult does. There are just some truths that are true. You don't have to like them, but you need to be competent enough to accept them, that's the reality. It just is. You don't get to decide if it is or it isn't. It just, like the video of Jonathan Ross shooting Renee Good in the face. Nope. Nobody should like it, right? Nobody should be happy about it, right? We're not happy about it. It is true, though. It's an ugly, ugly, ugly truth. Do not look away from it. And you know what Maga could do here? Maga could say something like, we never condone, thou shalt not kill, because they're all devout Christians. Just that, thou shalt not kill. Jonathan Ross had a choice in that moment, and he chose to switch his phone that he was filming her with, capturing her last words, put it in his other hand so he could pull out his gun and shoot her not once, not twice, but 3 times. That was a choice he made. He was not threatened. He was never in danger. And he calmly walked away after calling her a fucking bitch. That is the truth. I don't care who doesn't like it. It is the truth. And therefore, it is our responsibility, anybody who puts themselves on the internet like this, our responsibility to keep reiterating the truth and pushing back. So we don't waste our time with fake accounts and trolls. We focus on the Trumpers in Congress who actually impact our daily lives. The Maga traitors in our government who are deliberately hurting us and lying to us. Focus your energy, laser focus on them. Do not get distracted. There's a lot of things to hold them accountable for. It is up to us to do it until we can get a Democrats back in power, and then hopefully kind of, try to reclaim our media if we can in some way, which is a huge task. But there are enough of us who are invested in the truth. Half the country didn't vote for him.
Mm-hmm. Right.
They're desperate for truth. We're desperate for the truth. So we have to be the ones continuing to make it available. I mean, that's the fight.
I agree by and large, but the problem is, for me, is that maybe it's the same kind of frustration that Republicans allegedly felt about Lake and Riley or something, where they hammered it. Now, I think they hammered it because there weren't nearly as many cases that they could cite of an immigrant killing someone. So they had to keep, if there's 35 million psychopaths in the country that were intentionally dropped in here by Venezuela and the Congo, then how come you guys have to keep mentioning one woman who was attacked over and over and over again? That statistically, that sounds a bit like bullshit to me. But I can, one of the issues, what they were successful in doing was taking that singular event, which was a singular event, and painting the Biden administration with it. That was how all interactions go. That's and it wasn't that, that Lake and Riley had a short skirt and had it coming. I mean, the irony is that they'll switch to that one if they like the perpetrator really fucking fast. Yeah. But what they were successful in doing was drawing a direct line from that circumstance to the White House. And that's the one area where I feel like we have a missed opportunity and a responsibility more than anything else to do in this particular case.
Well, remember who signed a last-minute Remain in America policy for Venezuelans before he left office 5 years ago?
Last thing he did before he left.
One of those Venezuelans who was allowed to remain in America is the one who killed Lake and Riley. But Maga doesn't know that. They don't know that. And if you tell them that, they get mad. So
tell them again. Right. If they get mad, then tell them again.
It's still true. It's still true. Again and again and again and again. You don't get to change facts because you don't like them. Because you're a thin-skinned snowflake. You don't get to. You don't get to rewrite January 6th after you live streamed it for us. You don't get to do that. Right? You just don't. Here are things that are true. That's true. You smeared your shit on the Capitol walls.
Yeah.
That's true. You did, Maga. They're all this. I lumped them all together now. One Maga is all of them. You did that. You did that. And you did that. So, and that's what I want Democrats to do. I want them to hold Trump accountable every day. Again. Via their opponent, via their Republican opponent. Trump did this, therefore you did that. You did that. Remember the day I spent 4 hours tweeting every single House Republican about SNAP benefits? Mm-hmm. I spent 4 hours doing that, where I went to Google and I screenshot the facts of how many SNAP recipients there were in every red state. And I did that, and I tagged every single Republican in that, House Republican per state. And I said, Mike Johnson, Steve Scalise, Clay Higgins, all of those swamp rats from Louisiana, you are deliberately starving 850,000 SNAP recipients. Mm-hmm. Why is Trump more important than they are? Those are the questions. I want to see Democrats hammering their opponents with facts like that, statistics like that. You were fine with shutting down the government and starving your own constituents to protect Trump from the Epstein files. That's fact. That is a fact. Live in the facts. Hammer them with facts instead of personal insults, which are juvenile and distracting with the whataboutisms and the false equivalences. But again, the number one thing that Republicans have learned from Trump is if you attack the messenger and let that become the distraction, that's their favorite thing to do. That is their favorite thing to do. Never let them do that. And take a page from Stephanie Miller. She did an amazing segment on Fox a couple of weeks ago. I don't remember who she was talking to, but every time they said something, she's like, what's interesting about that is that Trump is still all over the Epstein files. That was her response to pretty much everything. And it was glorious. Right. It's glorious. They haven't released 99% of the Epstein files. That is a fact. Hammer them. Why haven't you done that? If there's nothing in them, go. there you are. Like, do I have to go sit next to Ken Martin and help him tweet? Like, what do I have to do? So for now, you and I and everybody else that's out here doing this, stay in the truth. Every time a Democrat tweets, respond with, hey, your opponent so-and-so did this. Please use that against them. That would be helpful. You know, like, we can help in that way. Boosting Democrats means helping them have a successful campaign in any way. Right. If I'm not going to get hired to work on a real campaign, which is a dream, then I'm going to at least try to do my part by consistently sharing truth.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Okay. So one of the things that I want to avoid in our conversations, and I mean not just you and I mean in general as far as Democrats going, and this is meant to be critical and instructive at the same time.
Okay.
One thing is to remember that they do not have the same outrage nerve that we have, period. They do not share your empathy. They're not going to react to it as well. They do not feel shame. They can only feel embarrassment. So anything that you're going to hit back at them, do not try to shame them, which is how you would motivate yourself. If you do something and you're ashamed of it, you try not to do it again. You're a good person, and I appreciate that about you. Both you, Tara, and you in the audience. You will respond. Yes, you will respond to shame. They do not. They never will. They also feed off outrage because they live under this bizarre belief that if everybody's upset, we must be doing something right. That kind of shit you hear all the time. Then in which case, I guess Ted Bundy and the Unabomber are your fucking hero then, because they seem to upset a lot of people. Right. So it's just stupid. So no, outrage is not how it works. And if you catch them outraging you, like that they are turning you into an outrage junkie, recognize it, calm yourself and reframe and fall back on their indefensible positions, of which there are many that you can hit them with factually and in terms of the ramifications they might feel from either voters in the case of an elected representative, or financially as a person who has a business and your customer base will be affected by this. And that's something that will actually attenuate their behavior, which is really what your goal is. You have to understand that you have a goal in this situation. What is it? It's to attenuate their behavior. You want to tune them to either, if not completely off from participating in politics, being, more, having to deal with the facts that they, even if they continue to be MAGA in their mind, they're still struggling with the reality in the back of their head. You want to you want to toss rocks in their backpack that makes it harder for them to walk uphill carrying that shit. And the more you go like Epstein files and Trump was friends with him for 25 years and how long would it have taken you to figure it out? Those kind of things. That's what I do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because you can't forget those things.
Right. And I also love John Fugelsang's amazing suggestion, which is just asking them which of Donald Trump's attributes is the most Christ-like in their opinion. Love that stops them in their tracks. I followed that. I do that, and then I say, point to the passage in the Epstein files to support your argument.
Right, there you go. Yeah, right. Always hang that around their neck because honestly, you will not shame them. They will. The more you're upset about the death of Renee Good, the more ecstatic they will pretend to be. The more they will go, she had it coming. The more they will dig in and justify it. It won't affect them. You're wasting your emotional and psychological and intellectual energy trying to convince somebody like that they should believe the way you believe. It's not, calling them adorable is another one, Arachi. That's we do that all the time. Yes. Yeah.
Precious. Like a toy chihuahua barking at me from a tiny purse. Thank you, Taylor Swift. Anyway,
the other one is, and this is more on us. This is more on us, is that I do not want to hear shit about holding Democrats accountable or holding Democrats' feet to the fire, or they have to blah, 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 when we have a minority in the House, the Senate, and the presidency. I don't want to hear it till we have 60% of the Senate and the House. The day after we have that, you motherfuckers can purity test prune the shit out of this little bonsai tree that you want in the middle of this redwood forest. Yeah. But until that happens, you are contributing actively to the superiority of the numbers of the Republican Party. And at a certain point, I have to stop. I gotta believe that you're not stupid. You're a liar. At a certain point, there's no way that everybody at TYT is this dumb for this long. Like, that's not how it works. Their whole goal, their whole job is to depress the Democratic vote. They do everything they can all year round to try and wear that sheep's clothing as well as they can, but that's the fucking job. So I'm not saying they're dumb. They know exactly what the fuck they're doing. And good people who care very deeply can fall into the trap of what seems like reasonable language. Yes, we should hold our leaders accountable. If they have the responsibility, we should expect them to live up to that responsibility. But if we as the voters have taken their ability to respond away, then it is no longer their responsibility. It is our responsibility. Get people to the polls. If they're redistricting a place, help drive up Democratic voting in that new district to fuck up their plan. Make sure everybody has proper ID. Just make sure everybody is. Like, fighting against, having it anywhere. That ship has fucking sailed. We have to do ID drives. If you're going to drive people to the polls on election day, you could drive them to the fucking DMV to help them get a new driver's license or a state ID. If they don't have the money, because that's the way the Republicans do it, to get a new ID and it costs $12 or $15, that's what you raise money for. And guess what, motherfucker? Yep. That's free. You can actually do that. You can pay for somebody's like that, and it's not the same as paying for the gas to drive them to the polls, which would be election tampering technically if you had a bus. So that they can't even pass rules against that. There are no rules against driving people to the DMV to get a new ID. None. Right. And so Democrats, we should do that by and large, even for Republicans. And why should we do it for Republicans as well? Because Republicans think the real ID is a satanic plot. And if Democrats are helping people get their proper ID, they will entrench even further into that bullshit thought form, and they won't have the proper ID when election day comes, and then they'll try to go to a federal building or sign up to vote in these states with these new laws, and they'll have the problem, not our side.
Right. And you know what I'm also seeing, and I think you're seeing it a little bit too, the Republicans who are pushing back are the ones who are also leaving Congress. Like, Marjorie's like, I'm going to do all of this about the Epstein files. I'm going to peace out from President Trump because I'm never going to get my pardon. I'm leaving before this shit puts me down. And now Tom Tillis is doing the same thing in the Senate, which, this is the same Tom Tillis who allowed himself to be bullied into voting to confirm Pete Hegseth. So, when you give with one, they take with the other. But when Republicans do stand up and push back against Trump, I think it's important that we at least thank them in the moment and say, thank you for pushing back against this, but why is this where why weren't these things disqualifying for you? Which is a point that Terry Jacobus was making. It's like, okay, so you're mad about Venezuela, but you weren't mad about Charlottesville, or you weren't mad about this, or you weren't mad about E. Jean Carroll being raped, or you weren't mad about the 34 felony fraud convictions. Where's your line? Oh, okay, Tom Tillis, it's right before you retire. Okay, but take what you can get and use that. Use it, right? Use it to the best of our abilities, even when a Thomas Massie steps up.
Yep.
Thank you, Thomas Massie, for doing the right thing by the Epstein files. But also, what are you doing with this J6 Patriot bullshit, Thomas Massie? Because I have questions about that. So it's I'll
tell you exactly what he's doing. What's
that about?
He's trying to keep himself alive while that happens. Because if there's a group of people that will kill you on behalf of Donald Trump for being disloyal, it's the Jan 6ers and the Jan 6er adjacent. So he scrambles that messaging. And again, whether this is actively what he's doing or not, who can say? But that is the result. If Donald Trump is going to send somebody to knock you off and go, oops, I guess you pissed off the wrong people, which is what Trump says all the time when Democrats get shot at or people that he doesn't like. The way you scramble the ability for the Jan 6ers to come after you is you come down on their side. I mean, you're materially not going to have an impact.
Yes, I'm sorry to interrupt. Or if you're Trump, you just make them into ICE agents, because have you seen this phenomenon? Like, somebody pointed this out, I think it was on Blue Sky, and I hadn't really thought about it, but it makes so much sense that we're not really seeing Proud Boys and Oath Keepers and 3%ers out there as much, because they're probably all wearing ICE uniforms now.
Oh,
or a good bulk of them are. Like,
it's the same. It's there's an overlap. There's an overlap with that group of people, certainly. But what I will say is, I don't find those people like, they're not as few and far between to where they're having to dip into one group to feed the other. I do think there's probably like 50% of each of the gathering groups that you've seen walking around. Maybe a third of them have signed up and are ICE agents. Clearly, I mean, I do think that makes sense, because it's a great way to get out of your mom's basement, I suppose, in that regard. But
and it pays well. It's you get $50,000 to commit treason and murder for the Trump administration. Congratulations.
Right.
Put that on your 1099.
And I mean, come on. Harris would have done the exact same thing. She'd have hired the same people, paid them all this extra money, sent them to all these cities with the National Guard. Sure. It would have been the same, because you ever notice how quickly, again, when somebody criticizes the government, when it's Republicans, when it's the government does something, even if it's a bill or a law that's been around for 50 years, suddenly it's Biden doing it. This is Biden-Harris doing this to me. But the minute Donald Trump actively does something that's never been done before, that's 100% out of the fucking blue, out of his, his crusty aging dome, suddenly it's the feds are coming after me. The feds are doing stuff. You're like, no, motherfucker, straight up. Donald Trump is telling federal workers, federal employees to do this very thing. That's why it's happening. He is prioritizing your demise. It's not some mystery fed, some blurred out person. They're like, the Fed man. I'm the Fed guy. I'm just unnamed Fed in whatever. And I guess they all wear masks, so that would be the thing or whatever. Here's
so
this
brave.
Like, hi, I'm Mr. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
Speaking of the Fed, Jerome Powell. So wow.
Yes. There you go.
Jerome Powell. Look at that. Who never, ever before in American history has the chairman of the Fed have to make a video going, we're all going to fucking die if you don't get rid of Trump, basically is what he said. So that is amazing. And what's even more amazing is Trump's like, who appointed this guy? You did, motherfucker. So, Maga going after Powell, it's like, dumb fuck. Stop attacking the messengers. Guess whose fault it is? Anyway, it's fine. That's fine. It's just, again, they can't be wrong. And so, they just continue to give us ammunition to use against them. So
I'll say
smart about when you're out there doing this stuff.
Right.
Smart about it.
A couple things. One is I noticed somebody posted in the chat, and I won't call them out specifically, but that they don't trust the government. I don't trust the government 100%. I never have, never will. Or at a certain point, that's beyond that being silliness. It's a lie. Of course you do. If you eat food you've gotten at a grocery store, you trust the government. If you drive on a highway, every inch you travel on a highway, you trust the government. If you call the police when there's a problem, you trust the government. If you vote, maybe this person doesn't, but if you've ever voted, you trust the government. The reality is that that's a fallback I see on the right lately, where the other fallback I've seen is where they fall back and go, the uniparty. Have you seen that bit where like Trump has started doing things that Democrats normally talk about, like reclassification of marijuana or trying, favored nations with drug pricing and stuff, which is something Democrats have been for, which I consider wins for us, not for him. But that when he does that, Republicans don't like it, because that's why it didn't happen before, is because a Democrat would try it and they would all fight it. Now that Trump's doing it, they're like, oh shit, we have to tuck our tail, right?
Right.
That they all, when he does something that they suddenly, that has to be done because normalcy, their fallback is the uniparty made him. The deep state has control of him, right? And this uniparty is that the Democrats and the Republicans are always doing the same thing. They're all doing together, and everybody always gets screwed, which is the laziest pile of fucking bullshit in the world. It's materially, factually wrong. It's not the same thing. And one of the biggest reasons that happens over and over again is because when Democrats create something like Social Security, SNAP, welfare benefits, home vouchers, homeless shelters, that kind of stuff, we don't beat our chests about it. We don't beat our chests and act proud about it. And so by the time Republicans come in with their fucking wrecking ball, they have this, there's nobody there to defend it. You know what I mean? There's just kind of like, oh no, they're taking the building down. And then people stand out there with fucking signs saying abolish ICE and all this kind of stuff, or they'll stand out there in front of something like protect SNAP benefits, even to the point of ridiculousness with the maggots in the Tea Party going, get your government hands off my Medicare, right? That kind of shit. Because Democrats didn't proudly proclaim the stuff that we do for people. The Infrastructure Act alone removed lead pipes from this country. Over the next 10 years, that money has already been paid out in grants to the states, and it specifically has to be for that purpose. And that money is going to go to replace lead pipes throughout the country. That is single-handedly going to drop the crime rate about 5% no matter what, just from the people that don't have prefrontal cortexes that look like fucking Swiss cheese by the time they're 21, right? And that's Biden. That's just Biden. Remember, like fucking, Michael Moore and his movie about Flint and all that kind of stuff. And everybody's just kind of like, gee, wouldn't it be nice if? And Biden fucking did it. Yeah. And he was like, and he didn't cry out about it. He didn't go like, he just went, we're going to do this. We should be done.
And he did it.
And he got no fucking credit for it. He got none. Our side didn't tout it.
I know. Another reason why we could always use a Democratic press secretary. Joe Biden has a great quote. He says, our votes are seeds for trees that we plant. Our votes are seeds that we plant for trees that will never sit under. Because that is what we do. Our votes are laying the groundwork for a stable future American society in its best. And so when someone says they don't trust the government, I mean, I don't know if you saw the clip because there's just so much going on. But yesterday, Kristi Noem took her blank Alina Habba Ivanka face on CNN.
Right.
Dana Bash said, people say they don't trust the government. Kristi's like, well, you shouldn't trust the government. Blah, 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 blah. Nobody trusts the government. And Dana Bash is like, you're the government.
Yeah.
And Kristi's like, that. And Kristi Noem goes, that's what I'm saying. So Kristi Noem just told you not to trust the Maga.
Exactly.
Just told you.
Yeah. I know I'm full of shit is basically the argument there.
She literally is. She is she is
I think that's marzipan.
Herself. She has poisoned herself both physically and mentally.
Right.
And no amount of fucking Corey the Wonder Schlong is going to change the fact that she is out of her mind. Well, you know what? That's where we need to go. That is where we need to go. We need to call him out that way. She has been, hey, people are calling her out for fucking Corey Lewandowski. Literally. I believe George Conway said something about her getting like free hotel rooms to fuck him in or something like that. It was something gross. It was something gross.
Yeah.
But anyway, do it. Point out their hypocrisy to their faces. It's like you said, they can't be shamed, but they can be embarrassed.
Yes.
So do what you can. Do what you can do. The other day when Trump was out there, he was doing some speech and he went crazy. He was making noises and he was doing these hand motions like he was squeezing baby like a little girl's boobies and like he was doing the milk lemonade chant or something. Share those pictures. This is your guy. That's who he is. Here he aren't proud. Aren't they
talked about proud? I talked about this on Steph, this morning. But in that oil meeting where he gets up and just goes out and looks out the fucking window.
I want to look at my ballroom. It's not there.
Wow.
It hasn't been built yet, Paul. Why don't you wander back here? What about him falling asleep, standing up at 11 a.m. at a press conference?
Oh, yeah.
He did that. He did that not that long ago.
Oh, yeah. So he's going to fall over and everybody's going to think he fainted. And they're literally going to come out and go, oh, no, he slipped on something. When in reality, he fell asleep standing up. And he's just going to keel over.
He's just fighting so hard for you. He's staying up around the clock to fight for America. No, he's not.
He's sundowning.
You need to get Dr. Adam back on as soon as you can because
we're doing a check-in.
His Instagram is life. Mwah.
Yeah.
Every single day I learn more about dementia. It's great. But one of the things that I learned today from Dr. Adam's Instagram, he did like a thing with a speech therapist, and she was talking about like the end stage dementia. He's like chirping all the time. He's like,
yes,
because
he can't swallow.
It's because he can't swallow. It's not because his dentures are falling out, or maybe it's a combination of both.
It's also the drugs he takes makes him salivate as well, and that makes it even worse. It exacerbates the whole thing.
Yeah. No, keep, and he's so cooked. Keep on this. Every embarrassing clip. Every time you see someone proudly out there going, I stand with ICE.
Yeah.
There you go, Caroline. There you go.
I'm Karen Channing, and welcome to the White House.
It's so special to be here. Grandpappy, soon his dentures are going to fucking fall out on camera, and he's going to look... it's all like he's.
He doesn't. He has implants. You ever heard that story? Apparently, this was during the he doesn't really brush his teeth regularly, so it gets all nasty. So instead of like cleaning them properly, he gets new implants like every 18 months.
Ew.
Like they take them off and replace them.
Ew, breath. Blah, blah. Everything about him is disgusting. Literally everything. You can pick any part and embarrass a Maga with that. Just do it. And then, of course, here's some advice that I want everyone to learn from me. Now, first of all, like, we're not having a judgment discussion. I have to see what Republicans are putting out there. Just the messaging from Republicans. Please, please, please learn and never respond to anybody who is trolling you unless they are threatening you or they're a member of Congress. Member of Congress, member of the Trump regime. That's it. Go after Pete Hegseth. Go after Mike Johnson. Go after people in the government who can actually impact your life and take away your rights and your benefits or your life or your freedom or whatever. Because what happened to Renee Good could literally happen to anybody regardless of what it says on their voter registration card. If some ICE agent guy has an itchy trigger finger. Because another thing that we saw, I don't know if you saw this, because there's so much. Yesterday in Minneapolis, a woman was trying to cross the street because she had the right of way to cross the street. And ICE agents who were trying to make a right on red, which again is a legal turn, but you can only do that if you're not about to run over a pedestrian. They honked at her because she wasn't moving fast enough. And then when she stopped to look at them, they jumped out of the car and shot her with rubber bullets. So now So now ICE agents are shooting American citizens for crossing the street not fast enough. Congratulations, Maga. That's what you voted for. That's what you voted for.
Sounds like freedom to me.
So, is that loving and Christ-like to shoot somebody because they crossed the street slowly? I mean, I'm sure we have all felt that frustration in traffic. But as a society, we understand that we're not supposed to murder each other because you slowed us down for 30 seconds. I feel like it's important, like a truth like that really, really needs to be out there. Shooting people with rubber bullets because they didn't walk fast enough. That's not a crime. Walking slowly, not a crime. But apparently it is now in Trump's America if an ICE agent sees you doing it.
Right.
Seems weird.
And again, there is this, the hypocrisy thing is something we feel. it is not something they feel. It just isn't.
No, but we can point it out.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have a total responsibility to do so. I do think it's, particularly odd that well, and maybe they aren't. I was about to say maggots are able to bury this or whatever, and they probably were for a good deal of time. But now I don't think so. I think post that Epstein memo, I told you, like everywhere I've seen, like that was the cut under Drago's eye. Or over, I guess. That's what it was.
Thank you.
Yeah, go for it. But the whole see, he's not a machine; he's a man, right? And I'm not a big fan as much as I love pop culture references in these kind of situations. But it is meaningful when you recognize that you're not up against this immovable force. The illusion of immovable force is what Trump has used for a long time to cow people into behavior and scare them. And that's why a lot of people, on the Republican side back down from attacking him, because there was two versions of the immovable force. Either he would destroy you and you couldn't respond because he was the president of the United States or the primary candidate in your party. And he just seemed to have zingers, and you're a dweeb like Jeb Bush, so you don't really have the ability to sling back, right? Or you have Ted Cruz's voice or Marco Rubio's height, and so you just know that those things matter on the right, and so you really got nothing to hit back with. But you also had the fear of MAGA, that he could send them after you, and if they decided you were done for, it wasn't just that you might not get reelected, it's that these fuckers are dangerous.
Yeah,
they're
just ask
violent.
Melissa Hortman and her husband.
Right.
Ask, I mean, even the guy who
bomber, the Jan 6 bomber, that guy, that he believed Trump's lie about the election being stolen. He bombed the RNC and the DNC both.
Yeah,
he wanted them both. He was gonna. Yeah, he attempted. Well, no, I give him credit because I think you should go to jail for attempted murder for just as long as you go for murder, because just because you're a fuck up doesn't mean you get time off for missing. What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
So he bombed these places, just the bombs didn't work. But that's a Trump bombing. That is somebody who listened to what Trump was saying, his rhetoric, him, Rudy Giuliani, all that shit. Right. And they specifically, they were saying for right up till it was released. Now, they obviously, this is another wonderful thing, and I don't know which side of this Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla fight to be on, but in the case of the Jan 6 thing, right before they busted this guy, the Blaze came out with this thing we figured out who it is. It's this woman, and she's a Capitol police officer with CIA ties, right? And we checked by her by how she walks and her height. We know that it's her, right? And they released it about a week before. And so the FBI finally busted this dude because they were like, oh shit, the maggots are getting restless. We got to do something about this. And they bust this guy, and now did maggots go, finally, all right, well, it might not have been that, but finally our FBI, Kash Patel and Bongholio and Pam Blondie, they both got on there and, they handled it after all this, the Biden administration didn't do it, but no. You know what they did? They fucking turned on Patel. They don't believe it. They think it's a fucking, they think it's like the fucking Zapruder film and the Kennedy assassination all over again. They think it's all, because you can't cultivate that kind of paranoia in people and have it go away. It's permanent. And in this particular case, it's the same thing with the Charlie Kirk thing. I'm sure you have seen some of the, Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk, Dave Smith, Tucker Carlson. I was fucked by a demon in a truck stop.
Oh my God, I can't.
There are some glorious moments, but the whole I woke up in the middle of the night with scratches on my sides right here and on my shoulder, almost as if if somebody was
fucking me from behind in the back room of a gay bar.
Yeah,
Benny
somebody with dirty, scratched up, with dirty uncut fingernails. I like it.
I like wood.
Oh, they all. They love the rough trade in the Republican
Deeper
Party.
and
the
longer.
rougher the better.
That's right.
Right, Marco Rubio? Right, Mr. Park Bench, Marco Rubio?
Well, that's
right,
the other. That's the other, and we're not saying that everybody in the administration currently is and we're not saying that everybody is.
Trump does the jerk off dance. He knows how to manipulate a penis. Anyway, it's fine.
Oh yeah, he's practically doing the was it Dana Gould's bit about trying to explain to his dad what it's like living in San Francisco. That story is one of the funniest. God bless that weirdo.
I love Dana Gould so much.
I do too.
Yeah.
And him, like what's him and Blaine Capatch, who for some reason hates me. Never.
Why? Blaine's
I don't know.
Funny.
I don't know. But Blaine's the one who he has one. His opening joke for years was one that I can't even repeat it without laughing. Which is he goes I'm from San Francisco and I do a lot of shows around or whatever. So whenever I had shows in the South, the way they introduced me is pretty consistent. It's our next comedian is from San Francisco, so you know what that means? AIDS. Like that. So that was the joke, right? It was that's what he experienced. Yeah, right.
Holy shit.
And yeah.
Well, oh my God. Well, let's all remember the Photoshop that Kash Patel himself created and tweeted.
Oh yeah,
where he put his head on a leather daddy moose knuckle. And tweeted it out saying, shoving the boot up the deep state's ass. That's not what you're doing, Kash.
No,
you're living in Vegas. You're living on the down low in Vegas. Like you told me.
Yeah.
You told me.
Yeah. With by the way, maybe boot is just is queer coded for something. Maybe that we don't know. Maybe it's the new hip stuff. You know what I mean?
Does it mean this? I don't know what it means. But it means is he's closeted and repressed, like Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio and Madison Cawthorn and who knows
and
how
maybe
many
Trump.
others.
Have you heard this one? This is my favorite thing. So Dave Smith, or is it Dave Smith? Ian Carroll, which I get them mixed up. The one that doesn't look like Tony Robbins fucked a barrel of chins, whichever one that is. Anyways, So
I love you so much. I love you so much. Okay.
But like one of them was like, we'll get into this later, but obviously Trump is gay, so that's a thing. And you're like, what? Like,
well, because he's accused of raping little boys in the Epstein files as well as little girls. He was an equal opportunity pedophile.
But Andrew Tate doesn't think that's gay. That's just power. So
Roy Cohn didn't think it was gay either.
That's exactly right. And again, the weirdest part of all, is that, like, they're all going, Israel owns us and controls us, and the Jews, right? That's the thing. And yet, Donald Trump's only had 2 fucking friends in his whole goddamn life, and both of them were dead pedophiles who are Jewish. Both of them. Roy Cohn and Epstein.
We don't claim either one of them. We don't claim either one of them.
Understood. Yeah, they've been kicked out of the tribe. I get it. Yeah, you're allowed to do that.
Long ago, you were booted from the tribe. Yes, you are. It's a fun time to be Jewish because people love to blame us for everything.
Yeah,
when it's not our fault at all. It's so fun. And may I reiterate, since we're here, we definitely don't control the media, because if we did, I would own so much instead of struggling to pay my rent every month. The Sound of Settling, a rock and roll love story available at TaraDellanRocks.com right now, would already be a streaming series. I would have a multiple book deal into the millions. Dave Grohl would have already paid me the $100 million that he owes me for inspiring times like these. And Donald Trump would not be president. If that were true, if I had that much power. Instead, I would just ask for people to sign up for my Substack.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
That's it. Because again, I don't control the media. I just try to make a little space for myself within it. That's what I do. So.
We're nearing the end. We're over time or whatever. I want to thank you, Tara Dublin, who does indeed rock, for coming on TaraDublinRocks.com, and of course to pick up her book, The Sound of Settling, and we will do this again very, very, very soon if I have anything to say about it.
Got to get you to Portland so we can rock out together.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Music together.
Yeah, and by the way, on that note, I feel like we can't forget your theme song.
Goodbye, Portland, you twisted man. Where's the harbor?
Where's the gap?
Goodbye, Portland.
We're not on fire. We are not on fire, but we are fired up. How about that? See you next week, sparklers.
That's right. Absolutely. All right. Well, cheers. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Peace.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.
See you. Hold on. Oh, I'll see you. There we go.
Bye.
Bye. There she goes. And she's off. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in today. It's Sal Sparks Mornings, Mega Worldwide. I think a great conversation. Just saying, for the record, I think it was pretty darn good, if I do say so my damn self, as we recap. Let me finish by saying a couple things. One, you're watching Hal Sparks Mega Worldwide, and I want to remind everybody that DNC has one fucking job. Red district's purple, purple district's blue. That's all that matters. Until we have 60% of the House and the Senate, purity test bullshit, those fuckers can go hang. This is nonsense. It's a waste of everybody's time. And on top of that, remember that the people that you are up against on the right do not feel shame, but they can be embarrassed. They are snowflakes left and right. They have no sense of humor and are weak and paranoid. And that's the edge that you have. And I need something like the moron you know to go over my head. So in the meantime, when you say fighter, what you mean is debater. And what you really want is good legislators, because this is the law, not a boxing match. And that's what matters. Oh, thanks for the gifted memberships. That's really sweet. And whoops, sorry. Hold on. Where you go? This is what I want. Chat. Where you go? Where's my chat? There you go. Sorry. I'm jumping around. This guy right there. So I'll say goodbye to the chat in here. Much love to you guys, and I will see you this afternoon. Thank you for the super chats. Take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. You and I are in Fancy's new video, Hal. It's a short... Oh, good. That's cool. Send me a link. Thank you, Bingo. Vive la résistance, oui. We have to fight the fights that are winnable, not exhaust newly aware activists with performative BS that create disillusionment within our own ranks. I agree. Hold on one second. Publish that one. Hold on. There you go. Publish that one. There you go. Back to live mode. There we go. Not performative BS that creates disillusionment within their own ranks. It's exactly right. And here's one of the issues that you have when you speak in utopian terms and purity tests amongst people, is that you are making promises you can't keep on behalf of someone else. They're the ones that are going to be responsible for it. They're going to be the ones that will have the disillusionment backlash that will keep progress from actually happening probably longer than if they had not been elected in the first place. So one of the clear examples of that that I give is Bernie Sanders. At some point, had he become president, would have used a drone strike, because drones don't come home in flag-draped coffins. Do you understand? Like, if you're going to do something and you have to do something, more than likely you're not going to want to send soldiers in. And the minute that happened, all of his followers who made that the standard, as opposed to the rational and functional use of technology and war powers, instead of being realistic about it, they had created this idea that he would never do anything even remotely like that, when he would be called on specifically to do it at some point. And when he did, all those people, all the purity test people, would be the first one out the door, guaranteeing that the rest of the stuff that he was going to do, that they absolutely believe in, never would have had a chance. Something is better than nothing. That's right. And we do not subscribe to the, if we don't get everything, nobody gets anything philosophy around here. It doesn't work that way. Like, it doesn't work that way when you're raising a child. It doesn't work that way when you're improving your own life, or trying to eat better, lose weight, learn a language, learn an instrument, learn a new trade, take care of an elderly parent. It's always a process. And all success is incremental. All of it. Always. So anybody who's against incrementalism or says that stuff should happen faster, blah, 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 or not at all, is not for progress. They just aren't. And I'm sure there are those that will disagree with me, but those people are silly. They really are. In the meantime, I've got to go. I've got work to do for this afternoon. Yeah? I'll see you this afternoon. Yeah? You're gonna hit the like, share the show. Thank you for your support. Patreon.com/HalSparks.